Welcome back to Good Sports for You, where we are talking about good sports for you, and it is finally that time. It is World Series time, so let's talk about it. It's going to be Blue Jays, Dodgers. It's going to be an awesome series. I cannot wait. But before we hop into it, I want to remind you to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. My last video did really good, and I got a bunch of new subscribers, so welcome to the channel, and I appreciate all you guys so much. If you're new here, if you like the content, please subscribe. It would really make my day. I really appreciate it. But now that that's all out of the way, let's hop right into it. Like I said, it's going to be Dodgers. It's going to be Blue Jays. One team's in Canada. One team's in the United States. I cannot wait. So let's break it down for you. So just a quick overview on how we got there. Last time, the Dodgers swept the Brewers handily in the championship series. If you want to know more about that, you can watch my last video. And the Blue Jays took care of business against the Mariners after losing the first two at home. Then they came back to win two in Seattle and lost one in Seattle and then won their next two at home. So it was a full 7-game series. So they may be a little exhausted. We'll see if that comes into play at all. I really don't think it should because they got a little bit of time before they have to go to LA and play those games. So as a whole, though, the Dodgers have faced a wide variety of teams, which I think is extremely important in their battle against the Blue Jays. They faced the Reds, they faced the Phillies, and they faced the Brewers. So I want to break down specifically how they faced off against the Phillies and the Brewers, because those are two very different teams, and I think the Blue Jays are interesting because they're kind of a combination of both of those two teams. The Phillies, on the one hand, were loaded with star power, with Kyle Schwarber, Bryce Harper, and Trey Turner, JT Realmuto as well, and they were really kind of like an all-or-nothing offense. They hit a lot of home runs. That's what they did. They didn't hit for a high average. They weren't great situational hitters. They weren't good at running the bases or defensively or in a lot of those things. The Brewers, on the other hand, were really polar opposites from that Phillies team. They didn't have a true superstar, and they were really kind of an everyman mentality of, okay, we need each guy to get his. We need this guy to hit. We need this guy to hit. Yeah, we got our rookie third baseman. We need him to do stuff, and everything like that. But the thing is about these two squads is the Dodgers handled them so easily. The Phillies definitely gave them more of a fight. They scored more runs. They actually won in terms of run differential, but they lost in the series 3-1. The Brewers, on the other hand, didn't put up much of a fight at all, quite frankly. They got swept. They only put up one run each game. Like I said, if you want to know more, you can watch my last video. But so what I think is interesting is even though these two teams are polar opposites, the Dodgers handled them both easily. And the Blue Jays are kind of a mixture because they kind of have that everyman mentality of the Brewers where everyone's kind of getting theirs. Ernie Clement is going to get you hits. But at the same time, they have the superstars like the Phillies had. Vlad Jr. has had one of the best postseasons ever. George Springer is in the MVP race. He's not going to win it, but he was in the race, especially at the end of the year, and he started performing really, really well in the championship series. So like I said, it's kind of a unique combination of both of those squads. So the question is can the Dodgers do the same thing, even though it's a combination? My gut says yes, just because the Dodgers are so stacked. Let's go over the strengths of the Dodgers. The first thing that you have to start with is their pitching staff. Your starting rotation is absolutely stacked. You're going to have Blake Snell, you're going to have Yamamoto, you're going to have Glasnow, you're going to have Ohtani. Those four guys could legit be aces on any staff that you look at. In addition, you still have a guy like Clayton Kershaw, who, yeah, he's old. He probably won't start, but he's still Clayton Kershaw, That's always awesome to have a future Hall of Famer in your back pocket if you really need it. I don't know if they'll need it, though, if I'm being 100% honest. And then some other things, you just got to look at their hitting. What a stacked lineup as well. You have Shohei Ohtani, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez. That's not even going into the guys like a Max Muncy, Tommy Edman. Kike Hernandez is a playoff performer. This team is just absolutely stacked with talent. So they definitely have the upside on the Blue Jays in terms of how talented they are. And Shohei Ohtani, game 4, that's really all you need to say. 3 home runs, 6 innings pitched, scoreless. He won the game for them single-handedly. When you have a guy like that on your team, there is no lead that feels safe. There's no series that feels safe. That's really all I need to say about Shohei Ohtani. While the Dodgers do seem like this juggernaut of a team, there are some weaknesses with them. They don't have the strongest bullpen. The bullpen was good against the Brewers, but it wasn't needed that much. But there were times that even against the Brewers, who they handled easily the whole entire postseason, there were still weaknesses within that bullpen. Game 1, bases loaded, gave up a run. They almost lost even though Blake Snell pitched 8 scoreless innings. In addition, Mookie Betts did not have the best NLCS. He had a 478 OPS. OPS is on base plus slugging percentage for those of you who don't know, and 478 is very bad, especially for a star player like Mookie. But what I will say is that Mookie Betts is Mookie Betts. He's a future Hall of Famer. You cannot expect him to stay in a slump for more than 2 series. I do not expect him to play the same way against the Blue Jays. Maybe for the first couple games, but there is no way that he is going to be held down that entire time, especially for a player like him who has that postseason pedigree and knows how to perform when the moments are the biggest. When you're looking at the Blue Jays and how they got here, on the other hand, they beat the Yankees. This was a solid Yankees team, and then they beat the Mariners in 7 games. The one core connection between both of those teams is both of them were known to have pretty good starting pitching. Yes, the Yankees weren't great, but they still had Max Fried, Carlos Rodon, and Cam Schlittler pitched incredibly well in the postseason. Max Fried and Carlos Rodon are both all-star caliber pitchers, so they had to go up against them. And it's the same thing with the Mariners. They had an absolutely stacked starting pitching lineup. You had Brian Wu, who, mind you, was a little bit banged up. You had George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Luis Castillo. All of those guys would be legit aces for other teams, maybe a number 2 at worst for most other teams. So they went up against that very, very good starting rotation, and they were still able to get the job done. So that is something that I think can definitely work for the Blue Jays' advantage, where they can say, hey, we've faced an all-star caliber pitching rotation before. All we need to do is just get through these guys as well. I will say I think the Dodgers have an even better staff than the Yankees and the Mariners, but this is not a completely new world for the Blue Jays to have to go against in the postseason. In addition, like I said before, they have that everyman mentality when it comes to hitting. Everybody is going to hit. For their everyday players, not a single player in the postseason had below a 750 OPS. 750, I would say, is around average, a little bit above. So you really don't have a single hole in the lineup 1 through 9. In addition, you have the stars. If you watched my playoff preview videos, you know that one of the things that I care most about is having that guy. And Vlad Jr. has been that guy. He has had one of the best postseasons that we have ever seen, with a 442 batting average, 6 home runs, and a 1.440 OPS. It is quite literally one of the best we have ever seen. In addition, he has not been striking out much at all, which is a big ask, especially in the postseason, where you're going to be facing this high-end talent coming out of the bullpen, coming out of the starters. And so Vlad not swinging and missing is a huge plus. You'd rather get the ball in play than not get the ball in play, obviously. In addition, George Springer, he was an MVP candidate in the regular season. He didn't have a great divisional round, but he completely turned that around in the championship series. Obviously, with the go-ahead home run in the bottom of the 7th, in that Game 7, it's going to go down as one of the most iconic home runs in Blue Jays history to propel them to that World Series. So he is getting it done. He has a ton of playoff performance, and yeah, you can say, oh, playoffs with the Astros and stuff like that. Experience is experience. He knows how to get the job done. He knows how to show up in those big moments, and that is going to be vital for this Blue Jays team. In addition, this already potent offense is returning their all-star caliber shortstop in Bo Bichette. He had a fantastic offensive season, so now you're just adding another layer to this already stacked offense. What I will note, though, is Bo Bichette is a poor defender. This is a Blue Jays team that kind of got a reputation as being a very good defensive team. Andres Gimenez is one of the best defensive players in the game right now. Vlad Jr. has had a huge upgrade at first base in terms of defensively from years prior. So that defense may take a step back with Bo Bichette, but with his bat, I think it'll more than make up for it. When you're looking at weaknesses for this Blue Jays team, the main thing that I want to highlight is their pitching. Kevin Gausman, Trey Savage, Shane Bieber, Max Scherzer is going to make up your rotation. You also have Chris Bassett. While he was hurt a little bit, though, he pitched in relief. You definitely could see a start out of him in this World Series. But you have guys like Max Scherzer and Shane Bieber who are getting older. Max Scherzer is definitely up there. While they got the job done in the championship series, my concern is basically that the steam is going to run out for these guys. With that being said, Max Scherzer is probably the most competitive pitcher to ever live, so I know that he's going to give everything that he has. My question is everything he has going to be enough? In addition, their bullpen hasn't looked very great outside of Jeff Hoffman. Jeff Hoffman has performed really well, but the bullpen, so you're really wondering about this pitching staff. So I think it's going to come down to Can this bullpen, can this starting pitching do just enough to hold the offense of the Dodgers at bay, enough for the offense of the Blue Jays to get going? Find your groove with Vlad Jr., find your groove with George Springer, and just have the other guys get on base and contribute. That's all I'm asking. So when I'm looking at this series as a whole, I think it's going to come down to a couple of key things. Like I said with the Brewers in the past, the Blue Jays need to get into the bullpen early against the Dodgers. You need to be working counts. You need to be fouling off pitches. And there are very few teams that do that better than the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are an incredibly talented offense when it comes to just slapping the ball around. They're not going to strike out a ton. And in addition, they have the big bats in Vlad Jr. and George Springer that you love to see. On the other side of it, though, you have the Dodgers. They have one of the best lineups ever, and they have this starting rotation that is absolutely phenomenal, out of this world. If I had to make a guess, if I had to make a prediction, I would have to say probably Dodgers in 5, maybe 6 if the Blue Jays can really find something, but I think the starting pitching is just going to be too much to handle. But I will say, this Blue Jays team is not going to be a pushover. They are an incredibly talented team. They did not get here via fluke or anything like that. They have the talent. They have the players to get the job done, but I just don't think it's enough to go against this Dodgers team that is absolutely loaded. But that's all I got for you. I hope you enjoyed listening. I had a great time talking to you. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. I cannot wait for this World Series. I am super amped, and I'm out. Peace.